Hey guys, Van again with Mount Pleasant Community Homestead. Picked a large harvest of tomatoes this week. We probably picked, I would say, close to 80 to 100 pounds of tomatoes over this past week, and been making different sauces and kind of just blanched them for about 3 minutes and on the stove, and then put them in the sink. Peeled the tomatoes last night, and then put them into some of the large half-gallon ball jars to set until this morning, just so I can, it was really late last night. So I got up early this morning, and I'm making the sauces now, cooking them down. And we're just using the Mrs. Wage's pasta sauce, seasoning, and some sugar. And it's real easy to make. Let me show you what I got. Okay, so we've brought the tomatoes up to a boil, and we're adding this Mrs. Wage's pasta sauce seasoning along with a 1/4 cup of sugar for each 6 pounds of tomatoes. And it's pretty straightforward. It tells you all the instructions on the back, and it makes a really awesome pasta sauce. So I think I ended up using 5 of the Mrs. Wage's packets for 12 quarts. And so once you get it going, it definitely makes the kitchen smell amazing. So looking forward to seeing how it tastes. All right, as I said, I put them into these half-gallon ball jars last night after blending them in the Vitamix blender. And then we had approximately 9 half-gallon jars completely full. And then today we're making the sauces, so let's go over to the stove. All right, so just follow the instructions on the Mrs. Wage's packet, and you just bring the sauce to a boil. Add your seasoning and sugar, and let it, once it starts coming to a boil, after it's mixed, you let it sit on simmer for about 25 minutes. I've preheated my ball jars in the oven, just took them out, so the sauce is smelling really good. And, should be able to make at least 12 quarts of sauce, I believe. And we're gonna just fill up the ball jars, put the lids on, and screw them down. Then I'll get the water bath canner set up for canning them. Now, one thing to note is once you fill up your ball jars, you're going to want to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace on the jar, and put your lid on, and then put your rings on just finger tight. And once you cinch them down, it'll allow them to vacuum and seal down. And then we'll get them tightened down when we put them into the water bath canner. Alright guys, we've finished doing the first batch of canning. Here we've got a dozen quarts of homemade spaghetti sauce, or not spaghetti sauce, just pasta sauce. And we used the Mrs. Wage's spices and sugar, and cooked them all down. We just got done doing the water bath canning, and we have 12 quarts here that are still pretty hot, but they're cooling down. And then the rest of the tomatoes we put in the large half-gallon ball jars in the back there. And those have not been cooked. That's just been processed. They've been blanched and peeled. And we've got about 4 half-gallon jars that you see all the seeds in. Those are going to be used for making some homemade salsa here in the next few days. And then the other ones in the very back are some of the tomatoes that we didn't blanch or anything. Well, we did blanch them, excuse me. We removed the seeds, and we are going to use it as tomato juice that we're going to actually run through our freeze dryer and turn into a tomato powder. So that's what the noise you hear right now is. Our freeze dryer is cooling down. We're going to be running, once that gets down to temperature, we'll be filling up 4 of our trays and freeze drying some to turn into a tomato powder. So anyways, this is just this week's harvest. We had about 15 to 20 gallons worth of tomatoes that we picked out in the garden. So we're putting it to good use. Okay, we got the freeze dryer loaded up with the tomato juice. We got 4 trays in there. Seems like each tray holds maybe right about a quart, maybe a little bit more. But we got those loaded up in here. So we will get this started. And since it's all liquid, it's going to take an extra long time. So I'm thinking it's going to probably take about 35 hours or so. So we'll get this closed up and get it started.